Well said. I want to read an excerpt from your Substack now. He wrote that the conditions to set up mass formation psychosis include lack of social connectedness and sense-making, as well as large amounts of latent anxiety and passive aggression. When people are inundated with a narrative that presents a plausible, quote-unquote, object of anxiety and strategy for coping with it, then many individuals group together to battle the object with a collective single-mindedness. This allows people to stop focusing on their problems, avoiding personal mental anguish. Instead, they focus all their thought and energy on this new object, a mass formation psychosis. The group becomes increasingly bonded and connected. Their field of attention is narrowed, and they become unable to consider alternative points of view. Leaders of the movement are revered, unable to do any wrong. Left unabated, a society under the spell of mass formation will support a totalitarian governance structure capable of otherwise unthinkable atrocities in order to maintain compliance. Really scary stuff. Where are we right now in the development of this mass psychosis process? If you look at examples historically compared to where we're at today, how would you describe our current position in the process?
So when I first asked Matthias about this, he basically said that the consensus of himself and those that are within his intellectual community is that it's now proceeded to a point that it is well and truly embedded, and it's going to be a time before the global society emerges out the other side. I personally feel this is a belief. I tend not to be Pollyannish, but I see signs of hope that the intervention of this term and the logic behind it is having an impact on the population already. I think it's introducing us into that truly hypnotized population, but definitely into the middle group. It's introducing a note of caution and awareness and wariness that didn't exist before. The giving a intellectual construct for people to process whether or not it's true. I mean, there's a whole God knows there's a cast of characters that funded by Google and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that are in absolute denial that this is a real thing and that it's actually occurring. But whether or not it actually is, I think that it gives people a framework for thinking that is maybe already starting to affect the society a bit. Mm-hmm. I'm guilty of being in a little bit of a bubble, perhaps you are too. When I was reminded by a senator the other day, I'm going to be in the Senate speaking to the Republican caucus in the near term. And I was reminded by a senior aide and a senator that the majority of the caucus is still back in the belief system that they saved huge numbers of lives with the vaccine and Operation Warp Speed is an enormous success that they can all take credit for. And I was cautioned to be really gentle and slow in introducing ideas that are contrary to that. Basically, what was being messaged was these guys are in the mass formation, even though they're GOP, and you're going to have to walk them out of that really carefully. So I'm acknowledging my own confirmation bias due to where I sit in this information bubble space, but I think I see it. And the other thing that I hear is feedback from people that are in the population, the other end of the bell curve, those that have not been susceptible and are the dissenters. The feedback I hear that I'm really encouraged by is basically, thank you, Robert, for sharing this this frame of reference, this thought construct, because it allows us to not hate our opponents. The actual inclusion of the term psychosis apparently has a therapy, whether or not it's justified, it's not in the DSM, the Diagnostics and Statistic Manual for mental health, but it gives the cohort on the other side a way to empathize with those that are experiencing it rather than hating them. And I think that may be, in the spectrum of good stuff that comes out of me saying these little words on Joe Rogan's podcast, if it makes it so that so there's less hate, that's absolutely a win, and might make it easier for us to come back together as a society at some point in time, if we're not feeling like those that have been so resistant to the data and so adamant about forcing their point of view on the rest of the world. If we can see them as people having suffered from a disorder of thought, rather than being inherently evil, which is kind of the alternative, right?
That's great. That's wonderful, because that ultimately is providing a touchstone for empathy, as you said, and in doing so, allowing us to overcome this us versus them thing we tend to get sucked into, right? And starting to hopefully seeing this as a holistic, systemic phenomenon that, to your point, and this is critical, the psychosis is not one-sided. It's not like there's just people that are going psychotic that are being preyed upon. It's the perpetrators as well, right? They believe what they're doing is good. They think that operation,
I think this is critical. And I suspect that this extends to some significant extent to the World Economic Forum crowd, right, that they truly believe that the world needs a central government, and that they are the ones to give it to us. I think that's there may be the cynical in there that are actively exploiting it for economic gain or power, but I doubt that let's say, to pick a name, Pete Buttigieg is actively in there as a World Economic Forum young leader, thinking that he's going to be as rich as Bill Gates if he only plays his cards right.